Now with more insight on what this historic change of leadership means for New York City. Let's bring in former Democratic New York State Senator David Carlucci. He now runs a political consulting firm. David, Happy New Year to you. Thank you for your time today.
New Year.
I'd like to start with some of the optics of Mamdani's public and private swearing in. So first, using at least 3 unique Qurans. Progressives, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Senator Bernie Sanders, they are both taking part in the public portion. What message is he sending?
Well, I think he's sending that message about what America is all about, that you could be from any religion, any persuasion, and you could rise to be the mayor of the largest city in this country. I think that's the real message. So this is inspiring a whole new generation of people, particularly you talk about the Quran, Muslim Americans that might have thought that maybe there's not a pathway for politics. Now they see that they can put themselves forward and run. We heard from the camera people on the ground about how it's a big, lively crowd with a lot of young people. And I think this is exciting for all Americans because it gives that possibility, right? That, yes, you can run for office. You can put your ideas out there. Even if some people disagree, you should put your best foot forward. So I'm excited about that. I might not agree with all of the mayor's priorities, but I do respect and appreciate that passion and that vision. And I think if he can articulate that well, as we know, Republicans are going to try to nationalize him. But we know that there's no city like New York, and it's going to be a little bit different. But we should localize Mamdani when we're running these races, right, on childcare, on transportation, on housing, because every community across this country has those same needs.
I do want to talk about the broader implications for the country as a whole, but staying there in New York City, how does this new mayor ride all of this attention, all of this scrutiny, and make sure that he actually is a catalyst for a new era?
Well, it's been said in New York before, and the mayor quoted Mario Cuomo in his election night speech. We campaign in poetry and govern in prose. And I think that's exactly what you're going to see here from the mayor. And look, I served in the state Senate for a decade. I know it can be rough and tumble, but you have to stay focused on your goal. But you have to be flexible, right? And how do you keep your eye on the prize? If it is free busing, if it is freezing the rent, those issues, how do you get those done? And it's not a straightforward path. He does have to go through the New York State legislature, get buy-in from the governor. He also needs buy-in from the Metropolitan Transit Authority. So all these different agencies that he's going to have to work with. So that's going to be a tough process, but one that I think he's up for. And I think these goals are noble. The how is difficult, but I think that vision, and if we can move the agenda forward on these issues, like universal child care, like lowering the prices of groceries, freezing the rent, all of those issues I think are very important to New Yorkers, but speak to a larger issue of affordability. So we saw in the exit polling that there was quite a few Trump voters that voted for Mamdani. And we saw the bromance that they had at the White House. They're meeting at different sides of the aisle and they're coming together. And I think that's the message, right? That it might not be specifically, hey, every bus is free, but Mamdani is moving towards that message of we have to keep the focus on affordability, because if we can't afford to live in this city or this state, then what good are these laws on the books if we can't enjoy them? So affordability has to be the top issue, and the mayor has to make progress on that. And I think this year will be that test to chip away at each of these issues.
You know, and David, there was so much attention on this election. There were so many people who were thrilled when they found out that Mamdani won. There were plenty of people who voted against him. There were people threatening to move out of New York City. What do you think this means now for the Democratic Party as a whole? Is it a signal that the party needs to or should be shifting more to the left, keeping in mind, as you said earlier, that no other city in the U.S. is like New York City?
That's right. No other city is like New York. So the things that work here are not going to work in every state and every city across America. And I think that's one of the benefits of the Democratic Party, that it is a large, diverse tent. Right here in New York, we have Democrats that from the center, like Governor Kathy Hochul, to the left, like Mayor Mondami. But it takes all of that to make a great community and make a great country. And that's why I said, look, Republicans are desperately trying to nationalize Mondami and call him all types of names. But Americans are smarter than that. They know the politics of New York City are not going to be the same as the politics in Florida, in Iowa, in Nevada, you name it. And so that's why Democrats do need to localize this. Take those same ideas, that energy on these affordability issues, and bring them to rural communities, suburban communities. And maybe it won't be the same as free buses or freezing the rent, but it will be ideas in how you get free or lower cost childcare, lower cost of housing, allow people to be transported across their communities in an affordable way. So I think it is a positive for the Democrats, and it speaks to this broad coalition of diverse ideas. And we saw that. Look, just across the river in New Jersey, we had Mikey Sherrill get elected, who has a much different vision in terms of how to get these issues addressed. But I think it takes all of those ideas coming together to really move our country forward. And I think that keeps the wind at the backs for Democrats heading into the midterms.
I want to talk about that. You just mentioned Mikey Sherrill. And, here with Mamdani, we're talking about the first South Asian, first Muslim, first African-born mayor of New York City. What are you predicting for the midterms? Are we going to see more of these Democratic wins?
Well, I think so. Look, every time we've seen, forget the polls, just look at the elections. We just had another special election in Iowa that prevented the Republicans from having a supermajority in that chamber. And so you see time and time again, whether it's Wisconsin, Georgia, New Jersey, Virginia, New York, Democrats are not only winning, but they're overperforming. And I think this is important for Democrats. We can't just rest on the fact that President Trump is not delivering on his promises, that he's scapegoating communities. He's making our job easy, almost too easy, to that we fall into a trap and we don't really message uniquely on these ideas. We have to make sure that people understand what the Democratic Party stands for, not just what they stand against. And I think regardless, this is going to be the wind at the backs of Democrats heading into the midterms. But if we really want to have sustained power in this country, we have to go further than just be the anti-Trump or the anti-GOP. Hey, they're making it very easy. They've just become the party of Donald Trump. And so it's easy for us to attack that, but we have to do more. And that's what I'm looking to Mayor Mondami and the governor of New Jersey, Virginia, these leaders to demonstrate that they can lead, they can get these big problems addressed, and not just blame and attack the other side.
David Carlucci, really appreciate your time today. Happy New Year to you.
Yes, you too. Thank you.